From the Fidelity Bank Foundation studio, PBS Kansas presents One-on-One with Victor Hogstrom.
This is where the stars align for great conversation. My guest this week is a young woman whose star is on the rise. Her name is Katelyn Andrist. She is the reigning Miss Southern Kansas and author of a new children's book titled Becoming Confident. She recently won the Next Gen Under 30 Award for her work with kids and teenagers, promoting body positivity, mental health, and mentorship. Katelyn is a senior at Kansas State University, majoring in human development and family science. In June, she will compete in the Miss Kansas pageant, and from there, who knows? It seems the sky is the limit for this inspiring young woman. Coming up, we'll talk about her life and what drives her positivity and concerns for others. This will be a fun and interesting interview as I go one-on-one with Katelyn Andrist right now. Hello, I'm Victor Hogstrom. I'm delighted to welcome Miss Southern Kansas to the program, Katelyn Andrist. Katelyn, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
You're all over the place.
All the time. I always tell myself I do not stay in one place at all.
Okay, you have a goal in mind which we'll be talking about later on.
Yes.
But you are a student at K-State.
Yes, sir.
You are an author. In fact, your book is titled Becoming Confident, and I understand that you are sold out, making all kinds of money.
Yes, but I don't make any money. It goes straight back to after-school programs, different organizations and kids, because for me, I just wanted to build a community and build a better place. And so I think it's a good role model and inspiration for kids to understand that if you have a dream, you can help others around you, and it should come from right here.
So why are you helping kids? Why? What do you specifically do for them?
So I go into classrooms and I just help them with their confidence. For me, growing up, I grew up in a Catholic school setting. We didn't talk about confidence, and sometimes you're gonna have your bad days and have your good days. For me, I've understood now with my degree and all my experiences throughout the 2 years that kids are very vulnerable. And if we don't have people taking the time to seriously sit down with them and engage and inspire and empower, they're gonna lose their little sparkle. And for me, when I go into classrooms, I just wanna have these kids understand that they are just so loved by somebody. Because if you think about it, sometimes kids don't go home to a household and they don't have that one person in their life guiding them, so I wanna be that mentor for them.
You're also majoring in human development and family science at K-State. How do you plan to use this education?
I want to become a speech-language pathologist, but I want to own my own studio and I want to implement all my Miss Kansas work and my community service initiative together, because I do believe to have confidence is to understand yourself, but also use your voice. And people forget that with being a speech path and helping kids with their speech, they have to have the confidence to even try and to speak their own truth.
Mm-hmm. You're right. So you are introduced to you as Miss Southern Kansas. So what brought about this aspiration for becoming a pageant queen in your life? You're currently Miss Southern Kansas with the aspiration of becoming Miss Kansas. Tell us this story. What happened? Why?
When I was 14, my mom said, let's just try something new. I've been a dancer my whole life. I love community service. I was very involved with my church and community. And so for myself, I hit all the boxes to compete for Miss Kansas Teen. My first year getting in there, I made top 10. I said, okay, I think this might be one of maybe my purposes. For me, I love to have the opportunities in life just to keep going. So then I hit 18. I won my very first title, Miss Cottonwood. That's been the history of it. But I do like to be very open and honest. My journey was not linear. Last year I didn't go to Miss Kansas. So sometimes in life it's good for these kids and these people to know that with confidence too, your journey is not going to always align of what you want in life. So it's a good life lesson for me to know that if you put in the hard work and you're passionate about it, it will come back to you in different ways.
So, Katelyn, what if you do not win? Then what?
I keep going.
Miss Kansas, that
yeah,
is.
no, it's always crossed my mind. My family is very open and honest of it can go multiple ways. For me, I'm going to keep advocating, still being an author and still making sure that my mission is known across Kansas. In the past almost 2 years, I've traveled to over 400 different locations with my book, traveling 13,000 miles and so much more. I've hit 28 different counties.
Wow.
I'm not stopping here. With a crown or a sash, I've learned it's me and my heart. And I think that's what implements me and communities to have such a loving relationship, because they know when I come in here, I'm leaving places better than I found them. It's not for the Miss Kansas title, it's for Katelyn. It's for making sure that our hearts are always going to be serving one another.
Right. So tell us then about about Miss Southern Kansas, and what does it all mean to you?
So I went about a month ago, and I'll have to show you my crowning video. Everyone says they get chills from it because the winners kept getting announced, and then the winner, who is Miss Southern Kansas, is always last. I just kept breathing, being like, okay, God, if this is meant to be, it's not going to pass me by. They called my name.
Miss Southern Kansas is Katelyn Andrist.
I just started sobbing because I always think about those kids and the people and the stories that they've told me. Miss Kansas is a we as a team. It's not just an I. So this year, I'm really making sure that's my mission to have people understand they are coming along my journey with me. And I just kept thanking everybody, because it's not just me. It is everybody. I always say it takes a village to just get on the Miss Kansas stage and have that confidence within my community. It's also vice versa. They have confidence within me too to represent them. And that is a huge honor in itself.
Your passion too is to help young people be positive about themselves, as you've already stated. Tell us, how do you go about this? What is your approach?
I think for me, it's just being honest and letting them know I've also gone through dark times. I've also know what it's like to look into the mirror and not understand who you are. And for kids, when you're very open and honest and vulnerable with them, you connect with them. I want to really make sure that I'm connecting and making a mentorship with them, because kids need relationships. They need those emotional, cognitive, and social skills that sometimes they're lacking. So when I go in there, I want to make sure that they're feeling seen. They're feeling heard and understood. Because unfortunately, with our generations, a lot of them are not feeling that way. And so for me, if a 30-minute conversation or a book or some of my workbook pages or different activities, if that can impact one kid out of 30, I'm going to keep going, because that one impact can change the whole world.
You talked about dark times. What have been those dark times for you?
Growing up, I was always taller than the most girls. With dancing, it's...
And that's a dark time?
No, it is, just because I had to look into the mirror and question my worth. Those are dark times, and people forget that when you're questioning who you are and what you're meant to be, that is so drastically changing. So for example, a lot of these young girls at 6, 7, 8, 9, going above, they're looking into the mirror and they're hating themselves. That's a dark time to not only not know where your life's going to take you, but you're not being who you are meant to be. So when I go into classrooms, I share with them that I know what it's like to look into the mirror. In my book, I am that little girl that's asking for help, and that sometimes it is okay to ask for help, and that with those dark times, we have to have those dark clouds to create those rainbows and to create that sunshine. Because I always tell the kids, you're like a Kansas sunflower. We all follow the light, and sometimes with the clouds and rains, you have to have that with growth. And so for me, if I can be that sun for them, I want them to continuously keep shining their light.
So your height was the only dark time that posed a challenge for you?
Oh no, I mean, even with dance class, I'd look in the mirror and I didn't really love who I was. I didn't love my body, because when you are in a world that is always telling you that you have to be A, B, C, D, and you don't quite fit that, that makes you feel like an outcast. So I know what it's like to be bullied for trying to be who you are. And definitely in middle school, That hurts. That's a lot. And when I talk to middle school, we just talk about the importance of truthfully loving each other for who you are, because now being 23, it's a projection of how other people are feeling upon you. But at that age, you're not going to understand that. And so for me going in there, if I can really implement what kindness and community is, I always say community over competition. We're not trying to see who's the best. We're all trying to get there in our own way.
What do you recommend to a young lady who's going through, quote, dark times? How do you recommend she overcomes it?
For me, I really love journaling. That's been another aspect of a healing thing for me, because sometimes we don't like talking about things and we don't know really how to. So I would say if you're struggling, get a pen and a paper and just write down everything you're feeling and then crumble it up and throw it away. Sometimes I think we have to fit this standard and we have to keep building upon what society says, but in reality, if it's working for you, then do it.
So tell us about your growing up days here in Kansas and the things that influenced you.
Born and raised in Wichita, Kansas, I grew up loving dance, musical theater, going to football games, going to both sides of the family. I'm very blessed that both sides here are right down the street, so we're very close on Thanksgivings and Christmases. I went to Magdalene Catholic School, then went off to Katelyn, now at K-State. Wichita has been a foundational opportunity for myself. Through living in Wichita, I've understood the business aspect and marketing of if you want to make it somewhere, it all starts in Wichita. And I say that as in Manhattan, there's such a close-knit community, but in Wichita, you're kind of on your own sometimes. And so for me, that really gave me that backbone of, well, if you're gonna deny me entry, I'm gonna make a seat at my own table. And being a young female and being 23, I've had to sit at my own table because a lot of times people don't see my ideas and take me seriously. But I think in the future, I'm gonna make sure that that's different for people.
Let's talk about your book a little bit, which is titled Becoming Confident. Tell us about that book and what inspired it.
Through Miss Kansas, we go into classrooms, do different fun things. I felt like I wasn't giving them all what I could. Because when you go into a classroom, let's be honest, kids don't listen quite often. And so their attention span is not all over the place. And I felt like I wasn't one-on-one connecting with them. With a book, that's allowing them to escape reality and create imaginary things and places and dreams. And so with my book, it's called Becoming Confident. So in their minds, they're becoming something one day. And it's also an educational workbook page. So that's allowed it to be in 102 classrooms all across Kansas. It's in 94 public libraries. I actually got flown out to Washington, D.C., so it's in the Library of Congress as well. It's been my mission to make sure that sometimes it's hard to start conversations, but if kids can read it, I've learned that when they read it, they think it, they speak it, and they do it. So throughout the book, it's a little ballerina who kind of just notices that her body's different. She feels different, her clothes aren't fitting. What does she need to do? She talks to her family and her friends, and she overcomes those dark times of not being confident who she is, being insecure. And so throughout the story, she's becoming confident to go on the stage and realize that there is no limitation in this world. It's you that creates and determines the future that you want.
So tell us, what could a person do to feel confident?
I am statements. I know that sounds so cliche.
Give me an example.
So like I always tell the kids in the mirror, when you wake up, who do you see? They say me. I said, okay, what do you do? I brush my teeth, comb my hair. I said, in that 45-minute span, when you're brushing your teeth for 2 minutes, look into that mirror and say, I am powerful. I am worthy. I am confident. I am beautiful. Those I am statements are so great to start their day because then they're feeling confident. They're feeling like they can go and touch the moon and the stars and the sun. And for them, they need that little extra sparkle in their lives.
But shouldn't that I am be based on something, some frame of reference, some foundation, something at home?
Yeah, I think a lot of times too with kids and their influences with their environment, It's what they feel that best fits them to be confident. Like for example, in a classroom visit, a little boy felt the most confident on the basketball court. That's great. I think it's understanding and defining who you are as a person and what makes you confident. For me, my book and all these visits and all these fun different places make me confident in different ways that I never thought possible for myself. But for some people, being confident could be wearing no makeup and just going to Target, or, the possibilities are endless. I think it's when you feel best in your own skin, your confidence just shines through.
So you are aspiring to become Miss Kansas.
Yes.
What are you doing to get there? How are you going about it?
I'm pushing my book. It is going all over different places. It's in 208 locations, but this year's a little different for me. I love community service and I love serving, but I'm taking a step back and realizing what's my personal leadership? What's my personal development? What's my growth? I feel like in the past years, I wasn't per se connected with who I am and what I want to be. And so for this year, it's been kind of nice to slow down and also talk with different people and realize what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How can I best fit Kansas? And that is through confidence. When I go into these classrooms and I have stories that these kids share to me and their hearts, like for example, I just had my first school visit last Monday. A little boy came up to me with his prayer book and said, "You answered my prayer. I needed someone like you to show me how I'm confident." That is my why. That is why I keep pushing myself and sacrificing a lot of my personal life to make sure that everyone around me is feeling loved and confident and knowing that one day they could be in my shoes. You just never know where someone's going to end up in life and what leadership position they'll be in, because leadership is power. And when you have power, you need to use it for good, and you need to use it to create places better than what you found them.
So how are those activities going to help you become Miss Kansas?
Great question. Sometimes I think about that of, if I become Miss Kansas, what do I offer? What do I give? That's my servant's heart. We haven't had a Miss Kansas in the past couple of years really dedicate herself to serving others and making sure that we leave places with confidence and value. As a future, maybe next Miss Kansas, I want my legacy to be that I never said no and I never gave up, and that I know what it took and what it takes to go on the Miss America stage and let people know I want to be a role model. I want to be a leader. I want to guide the next generation to understand, how are you confident?
So how does one prepare to become Miss Kansas than to Miss USA or Miss America?
It takes a lot of effort and a lot of prep time. I mean, for myself, I really have gotten serious in the past couple of years. And so, that's mock interviews, talent rehearsal, walking, fitness, outfits, paperwork, community service. But you got to remember, we're still human too. And that's been my main focus this year, that I don't have to have my schedule full on blast with different events every single day. I'm allowed to take breaks myself. I'm allowed to recharge. I just think people have this foresay that Miss Kansas has to be picture perfect. And I'm the first to tell you, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. There's sometimes I don't know how to answer questions. I don't know what to say or do, but on the dime, I just do it. And that's what makes me confident. I think that's going to make me stand out this year, is that I'm ready for it. I've been preparing the past 4 years, and I'm ready to serve Kansas. I'm ready to go into Miss America and be competitive to show them Kansas needs to put our name on the map.
You talked about making mistakes. Tell us about those mistakes you've made.
I have made plenty. Actually, my biggest mistake with my book was I had a lot of misprints and wrong wording and just different phases. And actually something very special in my book is on the very last page, we had a double print of the words, "Lula went on stage and she became confident." But I kept it, because when I go into schools, I tell the kids, you aren't defined by your mistakes. You define them, and you allow either growth or you allow it to define you. So for me, it's kind of fun to go in there and show them, hey, these are my personal mistakes, but look where I'm going right now. But I always say I made no mistake of going to KU, so.
Okay. Do you believe that life is easier or more difficult for young people today than it was, say, 20 or 30 years ago?
Oh my gosh, it's so much harder today with social media and all these different standards. It breaks my heart when I go into classrooms and I just see these kids not loving themselves and not shining the way they're supposed to because they feel like they have to fit this mold. I felt that way too as a little girl, that I just never fit in. But now being a leader, I can go in them and tell them, why do you want to fit in a box when you can break that glass ceiling? You can create a future and a foundation that can align for so many different kids and people. Every generation has something special and different about them. And with our upcoming generation, social media is such a big tool. We have to understand how to educate and advocate for them to use it wisely.
So what could we as a society be doing to better support our young people and set them up for more success?
Having those educational classroom visits, having people come in and tell them stories. Kids learn best from experiences. I always have said and will say that kids are sponges and they absorb everything around them. It's what we're giving them. For me, being 23, that's why I love giving back with different things, with my children's book, different educational workbook pages, you name it, my presentations, because they're learning something. They're learning that, wow, if Katelyn can do this, I can do this. Because I always tell people too, I don't take all the credit of being special. Some people have also helped me with my journey coming along the way. And so as society, we need to make sure that we're setting up a foundation that is so much bigger than ourselves. Because if we don't do it, then who's going to do it for them?
So what is your philosophy of life?
Never give up. And I know it sounds so basic, but it's true. The simplest things are the hardest things in life. With school, going to college full time, having jobs, having all these partnerships, competing in Miss Kansas, all my book stuff, I could have just given up and said it's too hard, it's too much, but I'm not. Because when these kids, they're my inspiration. When they look up to me, they're telling me, you know what? I'm gonna keep going. And you just never know where life's gonna take you. And if I would have given up last year of not going to Miss Kansas, I wouldn't be sitting here right now with you and doing all these amazing things for these kids. You seriously have to believe in yourself and never give up.
So never give up.
Yes.
All right. So we play a little game on this program, and we have one for you too. And I will start a sentence, and you finish it.
Okay.
All right. Right now, if I could be anywhere else, I would be
In Greece.
And why?
I think Greece is just so pretty, and the culture and the atmosphere. The sunrises are just absolutely beautiful. And who wouldn't want to go to Greece? I mean, come on now.
Next one is, one thing in life I cannot handle is?
What'd you say?
One thing in life I cannot handle is?
I cannot handle people not putting away their dishes. I'm the oldest of 3, and so I always grew up picking up after them. And so I'm like, it takes but 5 seconds to put it in the dishwasher, so please just do it.
Okay, then next one is, my greatest talent is?
Being myself. And that's taken a lot of years of understanding who I am and not apologizing for my voice and what I have to bring to the table.
My greatest failure has been?
Probably K-State with my first degree. So I was going to become a speech language pathologist in the communication science and disorders. So that was more towards the medical field. I just didn't fit who I was. I wasn't clicking with it. And so that's when I changed my degree with HDFS, Human Development and Family Sciences, to now become a speech language pathologist for kids and families.
One thing I have recently changed my mind about is?
You stumped me, that's a good one. I think for me, it's being present. For myself, I always feel like I have to be on and I have to be present in the moment. And then there's some times where I can just enjoy it for what it is. And I don't have to go back and think about things twice. That has happened. I have to move on. And my biggest thing is the redirection is my new direction.
I believe that allowing transgendered athletes to compete against biological females is?
I I'm gonna have to go with, I think they should have their own. As women, we already have to fight for a spot at the table as it is, and with friends who are on the volleyball team and basketball team, that's not fair to have a man come and compete.
My favorite historical figure is?
That's a good one too. You're stomping me.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that last one really stomped me too.
Oh, you can do it.
I'm trying to think. Historical. I would say George Washington. I don't know why, but growing up, just hearing about how all what he's did for just our nation and such, that's just a really big inspiration for me.
One thing I enjoy that most people hate is?
Community service. I absolutely love it. And for me, I'm always saying, yes, I want to help and I want to go. And most people are like, I have to do it for a class. For me, I love just doing it in general.
One thing that often surprises people about me is?
I really do love my alone time. I like to wind down, put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and just breathe for a moment. Because I do like to be busy, but it is nice to have that social battery to recharge and be by myself.
Katelyn, where do you see yourself in 20 years?
I like to be married with 4 kids, having my own business, with my book being in all of our states. I'm in 20 states right now, so hopefully I'll get to all 50, hopefully. But also too, I want to continue all of my work with my book. I want to keep traveling and, you just never know. I want to start going internationally with my book as well because I think and I believe that every kid deserves a free book.
Miss Southern Kansas, Katelyn Andrist, thank you so much.
Yes.
Joining me one-on-one.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of One-on-One. One-on-one@kpts.org is our email address if you have a question or comment. We always enjoy hearing from you. I'm Victor Hogstrom. Be well, and I'll see you again soon.